Good day, YouTube. It is Black Friday 2017. Yep, day after Thanksgiving. Must be around the 23rd or so, November. This is my long weekend. I got 4 more days off counting today. And working on the Goldwing today. As you might notice, the carburetors are missing. Yes, but what a pain in the butt to get them things out of there. But there was just no room. And I got to tell you, I drove them out with a hammer and a 2x4 to get over the hump. Man, they were dragging over this. Something terrible, but it's not like you can get in there and take all that out. Plus, I just put fresh antifreeze and everything in here, and that's all the water system. So I'd had to drain it back out. What a pain that would have been, but it was still a pain. Tips and tricks. Be sure to plug your... when you take the intake manifolds off, be sure to plug those ports. Last thing you need to do is dump a bunch of garbage down directly into the combustion chamber, or worse yet, lose a nut or bolt or something. So the intake manifolds on the Goldwings are like this, and they have that rubber piece that's molded onto the aluminum 90 here. And another tip is to, if these things are a little bit stiff, the rubber portion here is a little stiff, heat them up with a heat gun. I tried to pull these back when I was doing the heads, and they didn't come easily, so I just left them and worked around them. But I needed to get them off to get the carburetors out of this thing. So I took a heat gun and heated the rubbers up, and they came off very easily. If you have to fight them, you risk ripping these or breaking them off or tearing them or damaging them. And it's over. It's not, you can't fix it. So you have to replace it with a used one. Probably, I doubt they're available new anymore. Could be wrong. But heat them up and they come right off. So heat them up with a heat gun. Take your time. Make it right. That's what I've been doing this morning. No hurry. Just take your time and do it right. Don't break nothing. Right? So I got the carburetors off. Got them over here on the bench. I had these parts. I did a lot of 75, 6, and 7 Honda GL1100s in my day. And they all have a very similar carburetor setup on them. And I don't typically take the tops off. This is what I would describe as a vacuum secondary. And there is a large piston in here. This is a lubricated bore inside of here. And when you accelerate hard, the vacuum will actually pull that piston up towards the top and open up a needle and allow more fuel into the engine. And I have typically never seen, maybe one exception, maybe one old bike that I had issues with this. Other than that, I've never really had issues with this. I've had this engine running, and I've revved it full throttle, and these function, and they don't stick, and they're fine. Because of that, I'm not fooling with them. I fooled with the one that I had issues with, and I never could get them right. I'd get them, occasionally one would stick. You'd run it really hard, it would just stick up here, and then all of a sudden, at low speeds, it would run horribly on that cylinder. So if it ain't broke, don't fix it, and that's what I'm suggesting I do anyway. You can do what you want, but I'm not going to pull the tops off. I'm not going to pull the carburetors off the intake manifold. We're just going to kind of clean it in place. I'm more interested in that this thing has been sitting with crappy fuel in it for a long time, and I just need to pull the bottom off. I have kits here, just aftermarket kits. Hang on, I'm going to get the stand ready and crash. And let's pull a bottom off carburetor and see what I've got to work with today. I'm just going to do them one at a time. It's going to be an all-day project, but what else I got to do today? I want to hear this thing run. There we go. So let's grab a screwdriver here. We'll just flip these up, and we'll drop a fuel bowl off. See what we got. First thing I'm looking at is the screws to see if there's any evidence that they've ever been apart before. So far, what I have seen, I don't think these carburetors have ever been out. Which one should we do? This one? Okay, that one's coming easy. Uh-oh. How much gas will I spill if I turn them upside down? Significant quantity of fuel. I love the smell of gas. Okay. I usually do this in a drain pan. Let's just do that in a drain pan. Hang on. We'll line the drain pan. Yeah. Now we're cooking. Can you see that? Now we can get some pressure on it. I'm only going to take, like I said, one of these apart at a time. So you have a good fitting screwdriver. You don't want to booger up the head of these little Phillips screws. Get it where you can work on it. Get some pressure on it. I think they're going to be yucky cruddy. It's kind of what I'm hoping to see, as bad as it runs. Got that little adjuster there in my way. Oh, there's a little crud in there. It's not horrible, but it's the idle jets that didn't work at all. Not at all. Ooh, need a different screwdriver now. Bling. So this would be the main jet, and it's clean. I believe the kit's got new ones in it anyway. What do we got down there? I'll have to flip that over to get that one out of there. Bling. Let's look. Interesting. But these blue towels kind of handy. I swear I use a roll of them a day. This one has all the little holes in it. Pretty sure it's all plugged up. It is plugged. I think I have a new one, so I don't think I need it. And let's pop a needle and seat out of there. Whoops, sorry, didn't mean to bump into it. Push. Push. These usually slide very easily. You can get a hold of the little buggers. There we go. I didn't have any needle or seat issues, but the kits came with new ones. That's probably a 10 millimeter. That'd be my guess. Because that's a 12. About half the stuff on a bike is 10 millimeter, right? There's a little screen in there. It's probably stuck to the bottom of the seat cartridge at some point in its life, but it's no longer stuck. But got new one anyway. don't know that there's anything down that hole. I say I've done quite a few of these. I haven't done any recently. So, nope, there's no jet in that one. I should, let's count the turns on this. It was right there and I moved it. So let's run them in. Half, 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5, 2 3/4. So we're going to write that down. So we remember when we put this back in. 2 3/4 turns out. Adjuster. Then we can remove it and we'll put it back approximately where it was. All the carburetors have one. It looks like they were all set the same. And then when we get all done, I haven't really undone any of the throttle linkage, but we'll have to resynchronize the carburetors. Okay, so there's that adjuster, and then there's a little spring in there. If we drop these little bitty needle nose in here and let them expand, we should be able to extract that little spring. Just like that. Lay them all over there as a pair. If I forget how any of these go back together, I could just take another one apart. See there? So that looks good in there. Looks good, looks good, looks good. So I'm pretty sure all I really need to do is just spray this out with some carburetor cleaner, and then because there's some gunk and junk in there. And we're back. I got interrupted by a phone call. My wife invited me to lunch today. So, where was I before I got interrupted? So, like I said, I'm going to spray this out, carb cleaner, and then compressed air and get all the passages blown out. And there's a little, look at that. It's a little boot. A boot for that thing. Well, that's like an accelerator pump or something, isn't it? Yep. Probably still works, but anyway, I'm sure there'll be a new one in the kit. Well, there might be a new one in the kit. There might not be, so let's don't get crazy. Make sure I got all parts before I ruin anything. Okay, so I'll shut you off and we'll get the stuff cleaned out. You can see all the nastiness in there. You can even see that the pickups were just sitting in that goo in the bottom. So that's all it had in there to go from. So this will spray out, clean out pretty good. Put new gaskets, O-rings, and so forth in it. And yeah, we'll get this one back together and we'll pop a new one open. Okay, we'll just keep doing this till we're done, and we'll somehow get that sucker reinstalled in there. Man, what a pain it was to get out. I've never beat carburetors out of there. I didn't see any other way. So maybe I should look on YouTube and for a video of someone getting carburetors out, which I've actually done, and I didn't see one that was easy, and nobody described an easier way to get them out of there, but brute force. Didn't break nothing. That's all good. So check back with me in just a little bit, and we'll see how we're doing. Catch you in a minute. Well, we're back. We're got 3 of the 4 done. We're about to pop open number 4. See what it looks like. Pretty much they've all had about the same amount of garbage in them as the first one did, but they're in good shape. They're in pretty good shape. Dirt cleans up. Oh, come on. Yep, a little bit of garbage in the bottom. Mostly the fuel just dried up in them. So we're just soaking this in carb cleaner. I had to get in there with a Scotch-Brite pad to get that stuff off the bottom, but we'll let this thing soak here for a little bit while we bust this thing apart. Making a mess in here today. So, we'll pull the main jet. Bigger screwdriver. And then we'll pull This is what the jet installs into. Got to reuse that. Remember I was telling you about how the secondaries work and how the needle comes up when you're really into the throttle. That's where the needle is. This is the other end of that needle, and it goes into the bottom of this, which has the main jet in it. So the main jet meters how much fuel is allowed to go in here, and then that secondary needle regulates the fuel based on throttle position and vacuum. There we go. So these are pretty easy to deal with if they're not too dirty. These are the idle circuits, and they're all plugged up, but new ones come in the kit. So we're good to go there. I'm running these down. I'm finding between 2 and 2.5 turns. 1 turn, 2 turn, just a little over 2. So when I'm putting in the new ones, we're going for 2.5. That ought to be pretty close. We can adjust from there. These have new ones in the kits. I will save all this stuff too. You never know. Well, because I'm a hoarder. But you never know when this stuff might come in handy. You might have to do a set of carbs. You don't have kits for them, or working on them late in the night or something. So let's get the needle and seat out of here. Like I said, these were in pretty good shape, so these are a breeze to work on. If you got one that's been sitting outside forever, this is a process. And a little more cleaning would need to happen, and taking these off the intake manifold would be, or off of this plenum, would be a pain to get everything back on. So I'm glad I don't have to do it. Little screens have been hit and miss, but mostly detached. So we're just going to jump in here now and spray these out. Put your safety glasses on your head, on your eyes instead of on your head. Stand aside. I'll get my camera. Idle circuit, main jet, fuel inlet, the general cleaning. Kind of mop this out. We'll hit it with a little air. Or we'll put it back together. Blow it out. Watch your eyes. You can see the fuel inlet hose move when I shoot that. Okay. Now we just got to clean that bowl out. Change the gasket. Because it's kind of yucky in there. I'm probably going to have to work on it. I have had to work on the rest of them. So here's a little tip. I'll have to make me a new one. I like to use the little Scotch-Brite pads and the needle nose pliers. So if you've seen some of my other videos, you know I keep these little green Scotch-Brite pads, and I just cut off itty bitty squares. They last me forever. I get them in a stack at Home Depot for cheap. But let's see if I can show this, because I have liquid in it. But you see how cruddy that is. So I take the Scotch-Brite pad and a needle nose, and I just work that down in the bottom. See what I've done there a little bit. So that's kind of the trick. That's why we put some carb cleaner in there right up front to just let it soak while we were taking the rest of the jets and stuff out. Kind of loosen this stuff up a little bit where we can get it out with Scotch-Brite pad, because I'm just not taking the time to soak these out, but I'm not taking the bodies off anyway, so They're just not that bad, which is wonderful. I knew the idle circuits were plugged up because the thing wouldn't idle at all, which makes them not run very good at all. So pretty good. Now let's take the plug out. There's a plug on this end. We'll take that out, make sure we get all the dirt out of there. There's a plug. It has a passage in it too, so we've been cleaning them out. There's a hole in the end and then there's a hole in the side. It's essentially just a drain. You can reach in there with a screwdriver and open this up, and it allows the fuel that's in the bowl to drain out of it. So say you wanted to winterize it, do it the right way, and not have any fuel in the carburetor. That's how you would shut the gas valve off at the tank and then open these screws up and let the fuel drain out. And then make sure you can blow air through them, and I can, so that's good. Now we'll spray this out again through the jet hole there. Clean off the rest of it. Get my yucky towel here. We'll dry it off just like doing the dishes. Right. It's like washing a coffee cup. I'm not restoring this motorcycle. I mean, I don't care if the carburetors are perfectly clean. Just not going to do it that far. Bike's too rough to go that far with it. So now we just got to peel that gasket out of there. Just going to do it with a knife. Be careful, don't kill yourself with this thing. It's been kind of glued in. I still think I'm the first person to have these apart. It's hard to believe, but if they've been apart before, it was probably a Honda dealer or something, because nothing's been out of place. This was sort of glued in. I'm not gluing the others. They seem to be to stay in where they're supposed to be without moving around. Okay. Let's put the plug back so we don't forget it. Plug back in. There we go. Open up our carburetor kit. These are fairly inexpensive on the internet. Honda kits are about $100 a piece. No, is that right? Yeah, I can't remember. Don't quote me on that. But they're expensive. So these are aftermarket kits. I've had pretty good luck with them. I think that plug that I just reinstalled, I couldn't find an O-ring in the kit to fit that, so I'm just reusing the other one. That's the only negative I have found on these kits. Now there's these little detents right there. That's if you push that O-ring into those detents, it'll hold it in place. Right there. There we go. Right there. So that'll stay. Okay, these are the ones that come up from the secondaries. I'm not replacing them because I'm not taking them apart, so I don't need them. That's probably a replacement for that plug. Not using them. I don't know what that is, but I'm not using it because I didn't take one out. So let's see. I do have to reuse this guy, and that's the main jet I'll call it an adapter. So I'll clean it up just a little bit here. And we'll make sure that the everything is clean and clear. We'll hit it real quick. So make sure you can see light through it. There you go. See light through it. And there's the little holes in it. Where can you focus? See those little holes? So we're just going to make sure we can blow through that. We'll plug the other end. Piece of cake. They are fine and free. Well, they're not free, but they're reasonable. We'll thread that back in. Took a 7mm wrench to tighten that. Don't get crazy. We're talking brass and aluminum here. The new main jet. We'll thread that back on. Once again, we're brass on brass. You want it tight, you don't want it to come off, but you don't want to strip it. We'll throw this in there real quick. That is this guy, and it's got a brand new spring, like so. And we're setting them all at 2.5, so we'll bottom it out. Use my little screwdriver. We'll run it all the way in, all the way to the bottom, like so, and come out 1/2, 1, 1/2, 2, 2.5. We set them all at 2.5, and it should be good to go. Here's the idle jet, down the middle. We're just doing this with fingertips so that we have a light touch. Bottomed out. Good to go on that. And then new needle and seat. Open that up. So we'll put the seat in. It's got the filter on the bottom. No, come on Glenn, forget the gasket. The aluminum gasket there. Da, da, da. 10mm. Nice and snug. We got the pivot for the float. We'll hang the needle on the float. Hang the needle on the float. We'll just set that in there easy and breezy. And there we go. So double check real quick that we don't have any extra parts laying around. I think we're in pretty good shape. So we'll put the float bowl back on. Somebody might be tempted to run these in with a power tool. Come on, don't do that. Things get over tightened all by themselves. They don't need help from a power tool. So just run them snug, barely snug, till you get them all tight. Let this thing find its happy place and then tighten them up. Do them 3 or 4 steps. Crushing that new O-ring we just put on. Don't have to reef it down. Gasket will do its job. Good. All right. Well, we'll stop the video here. I actually have some other things I might have to do today. So, whoops, I bumped you. We might not put these back on till tomorrow, but for you it'll be just a couple seconds. Okay, we're back. It's the next day. What we're going to do, I got the carburetors back in, which was a little easier than getting them out, but not much. Yeah, that's a piece of wood. That's a hammer. I literally had to beat them in a little bit over the hump. I mean, I wasn't wailing on them, but you know what I mean. So what we're going to do here real quick before we get too far is replace this fuel line in the fuel filter. And that's bolted in from the other side. So I'm going to run around this side. I'm thinking it's 10 millimeter. I might be wrong. Yeah, I am. It's 8. So hang on a second. I got to switch gears here a little bit. I need an 8 millimeter socket. What do we got here? Should have been more prepared, shouldn't I? That's a 9. And an 8. Perfect. So we'll pull the filter out. This is an easier task to do. Well, it's practically impossible to do it with it in the bike, especially if you're changing the fuel line too. So it is 8 millimeter. We'll pull the nut off, which is attached to the studs attached to a bracket that's got the fuel filter clamped, and then the time to change the fuel lines when you got the filter out. So got that done, and we can push it out the pump side, or the left side rather. I've already got the hoses cut. And then we'll wander over to the bench here real quick, and we'll go about replacing that. So, you know, these clamps they function well, and I know there's a lot of folks out there that will tell you just how great they are, and they are. They clamp well. They put the pressure 360 degrees all over the hose, but dang it, they're sure a pain in the butt, and I don't like them. Yeah, that one's stripped. That's wonderful. They're both stripped. I don't know if this will come either. We got one. I'm not even sure why I'm fighting them. I don't need it. I don't need them. Here's the clamp. So I ordered fuel filters online. As long as they fit the clamp, that's all we really care about. Now, I never order one, I order a bunch. I know this one's not going to be the same exact shape, but again, as long as it holds the filter in the clamp, that's all we care about. So it's the diameter we're hunting for. Well, that's not too cool. They either fit or they don't, and that goes into the don't fit. If I hold that thing up on that ridge, it would, but then the bolt's not long enough, is it? Nope. Okay. Let's set these aside. I picked these up at the swap meet last weekend. Fits better already. Holy smokes. Yeah, there we go. The swap meet ones fit way better. It leaves me enough room to get the hose in there. Shoot. Okay. So that's that. Now we want to reproduce the hoses. So I picked up some 1/4 inch fuel line. I always get a bunch because I'm always running out. I swear there's a vortex in my shop for 1/4 inch fuel line. There's like 1,000 feet of it sitting somewhere. Because I always buy it 10 feet at a time. Now I've cut a little off of these hoses. So I need to cut these a little longer, and we'll trim them to fit once we get there. It's a 1/4 inch line. If you guys don't have a pair of these cutters, oh my gosh, my brother-in-law got these for me for Christmas a few years ago. Yeah, they're nice. I used the daylights out of them. From fuel line, vacuum line, heater hose, 5/8, even 3/4. It's got that little groove in there. It works really good, really good. They're getting a little dull actually from just years of use and abuse, but okay, screwdriver. Quarter-inch nut driver would be easier, but I'd have to pull my drawer all the way out, and I'd have to move you. I always thought that nut drivers had a standard color, and then I buy a set of nut drivers that aren't the standard color. Like, 5/16 was always yellow and 1/4 inch was always red, and then I get this set and it's like the 1/4 inch is green. Well, what's up with that? Okay. Getting tight. Then we'll cut the other one. Remember, we're not matching the hose length, we're matching the developed length all the way to its end. So, and a little longer, we'll trim it to fit, because there's a little more that's going to the gas shutoff there. So I think we'll cut it right about there. Grab us a clamp. Oh, and I already got one. Already got one. You know what? I cannot put one clamp on one way and one on another. It's just not right. Okay. There we go. So this is going to go back in this direction because it came out this direction. I'll grab it from the other side. Thread it through its hole. Reroute this gas line a little bit. There we are. I'll put the nut back on the socket and reach through there. So this would be just good if you just had to put a fuel filter and fuel lines on, even if you weren't redoing your carburetors. We'll spin that filter to make sure we're as far away from the linkage as we can get. And we'll snug it up. I'm going to grab a knife here and another clamp, because we've got this old fuel hose here on the petcock. Make sure your gas is off, and we'll just slice it down. Wow, you've been on there a while. Those are original hoses from 1983. So, we'll grab a pair of pliers. Yeah? Okay, it's gonna fight us a little bit this morning. Wiggle, wiggle. We're gonna cut some more. We're gonna cut some more. Don't cut your fingers though. Come on. You know you want to come out of there. Almost. We're almost there. Come on. Cloth covered gas line. There. Now we're cooking. Now we're cooking. Put the clamp on there. That could have been just a little longer, but we're okay. All right. So we'll just take care of the other side, and that'd be the fuel line. Then I'll throw the intake manifolds on. I'll be sure to pull my towels out of the intake ports there, and we'll be good to go. So that's how to change the filter and the fuel lines the easy way, because you obviously can't reach all the way in there to get those clamps. So that's how you do it. Okay, we'll check back in a bit. Well, guys, we're getting a little closer to a test run. A couple quick things we'll finish up, and then we're going to see if she'll run. So I've got all the bolts started in the intake manifolds. I have the other side all buttoned up. We're just going to do this side. And it's just kind of a quick tip is to run these down before you tighten the intake manifolds. And then you don't put any pressure on these rubbers. Those rubber connectors are bonded to the intake manifolds. And I've just seen so many of these bikes where people abuse these rubber pieces and they damage them, and then you're screwed. You're gonna be in the market for some used manifolds. So even putting them on, I used the heat gun and warmed them up before I install them. Just makes your life so much easier. You don't have to fight them. So take your time with it. Don't be in a hurry. If you don't have time to do it right, do it another day. So we got all this snug. We're just going to run around. Give them a final little tighten. And then we're going to come back and tighten the manifolds. I always put these screws in a position to where you can get at them. That one getting tight. This one's got the little clamp on it for the aftermarket Markland cruise control, the throttle cable. That's good. Those seal pretty good. So, I have fuel in the tank. We have all the fuel lines connected. On the other side, at the pump, at the carburetor, everything's been replaced. I pressurized the fuel tank and blew some fuel out the fuel tank. And it came out just as clean as it went in. So I think we're good to go there. New fuel filter. There's oil in it. Antifreeze in it. I think we're ready to give it a shot. So I'm going to back you up just a little bit. In case she explodes or something, you know. I did not hook the throttle cable up. Throttle cables. Or the choke cable. If I have to undo it. Those are really a pain to get them in. Time consuming. If I have to take them back out for some reason, then I just save some time. So I'll be running them by hand. I got a full-size battery connected. It's going to have to crank because it's got a fuel pump and everything is empty right now, so it's going to crank for a while before it does anything. Go switch on. So we're just going to crank it till we get fuel in there. Be a bit. Hang on, I got a fuel leak over here. That's odd. Why do I have that? I guess that clamp wanted to be a lot tighter than I had it. Okay, it's promising. It's hard to work the choke and the throttle at the same time. I put a few turns in on the idle screw, so it should have a fast idle. We're not hitting on all cylinders, though, I can tell you that. Okay, I'm going to turn that idle speed screw way up. I cannot run both at the same time. I can tell you, like, I'm sure it's missing. Let's let it warm up, it will. See what happens. You open up some more doors. think we did pretty good. I'm gonna let it run here and turn the fan on a couple times. I actually looked up at the voltmeter. I'm not seeing any charge. You know what? Let's just check it with another meter real quick. While you're sitting there. It's got a good idle to it. Alright, we're just going to take a regular little meter, DC voltage, disconnect the battery charger, check it. See an oil leak. I wonder what I did wrong. So I got a little bit of looking to do, but it does run now. And Mike will end this video. Thank you guys for watching, commenting, subscribing. Give me a thumbs up if you wouldn't mind, and share my video with somebody that might be interested in it. We'll try and grow this channel a little bit, make it worth my while. Thanks guys. Catch you on the next one.